Welcome to the Performance Zone. My name is Dan Alexander, your host. Today, I am joined by Jayke Annan from the Recruiters Guild. Now, Jayke is a very, very, very talented recruitment trainer, recruitment coach who really leans in and specializes in the job ad and job advertisement space, writing job ads. And you're also a live practicing recruiter with the rec to rec game going on as well. Is that a pretty good intro for you, Jayke?
Great. That's just me.
How are things currently in the world of Jayke?
I thought you were just saying in the world then. I
Yeah,
was ready for some doom and gloom.
yeah.
The world of Jake is good. It's looking up, you know. I think the last couple of years have been very up and down. I think it's been up and down for anybody in our market, in our markets. But yeah, we're looking in a better place now. I like what the future holds.
Do you feel sorry for these guys that came in like post COVID, like with a false expectation of what recruitment really is?
Yeah, there was a real boom, wasn't there, just in that little period after COVID where you could name your price as an internal recruiter or any sort of recruiter. You could just pick up jobs all over the place. And I think, oh man, for the people that have joined that in that period, like, I don't know what they're up to now. It can't be a fun place to be.
They got catfished by the
They
industry.
got absolutely catfished by the industry. Yeah. The Tinder recruitment is not working out for them.
So Jay, like, just give the users, maybe, the listeners a little bit of just a brief background on yourself, and how you how you're in sort of got to this position where you're running your own thing. Like, what's your story?
Sure, okay. I mean, like all of us, I fell into recruitment by accident. I was applying for a sales admin job in Silverstone. I remember the company as well. So this little company called Road Angel, and I, they did some sort of tracking devices. And I went for an interview for them via a lady called Julie Fletcher, who was at the time the office manager at Hayes in Northampton. And she's now a sales trainer and doing a completely different thing. Anyway, but I had those were the days where every single meeting with a recruitment agency prior to an interview was a face-to-face interview. It seems to happen less these days. It'd be a lot more virtual and telephone. I did a face-to-face interview with Julie, and at the end of this call, she said to me, at the end of this meeting, she said to me, "Have you ever thought about a job in recruitment?" And at the time, 18-year-old me, I went, "I don't know, man. What's recruitment? How does that work? Is that a job? Like people do that for a living?" Despite the fact I spent an hour with her, I hadn't quite clocked yet the fact that was a thing. So yeah, I went for this job. I ended up in Hayes and Milton Keynes and started there in agency recruitment. I did a couple of years in agency recruitment, and then decided that business development was probably my least favorite part of recruitment, and I wanted to actually just recruit people and do that side of things. And I thought if you go in house, that's all you do is you just recruit people, and that's the entire job. And I went in house, and it was a hell of a lot more than just the recruiting of people and all the other stuff that goes with it. But I loved it.
Were
Where I
they the
wanted to go.
company that put a little box on your dashboard? This was like the days before like TomTom. And if there was like a speed trap or
I don't think I'm that old, Dan. Like,
there was I don't I'm showing my age now, but there was a I think they used to advertise it in FHM magazine. But it was literally a little black box that you put on your dashboard, and it had like a light. I never had one because I didn't drive back in those days.
sure.
And I can't remember if it was legal or not legal, but like I guess people at the time were like, yeah, I'm sure it was called Road Angel.
No, maybe it was them. Maybe it was them.
Yeah,
I didn't do my interview prep for them today, unfortunately. It's been it's been a few years since I did that.
yeah, nostalgia, Jesus.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Um,
so you're still doing you're doing rec to rec alongside the training, right? So currently, um, so like firstly, just I mean, how did that come about? The sort of the dual modality.
I mean, like all things, kind of by accident. I'm working with Will Brashaw at Will's Talent, who I think a lot of recruiters know because he posts funny content. And now you notice I'm in some of that funny content and writing for that funny content and stuff like that, which is quite good. And yeah, we've always chatted and had some sort of relationship over the years. And I offered to do him some training and said, hey, if I do some training, will your team sort of push the word out a bit? And yeah, just in a conversation, he said, well, look, he says, it's easy enough to find rec to rec jobs. It's really difficult to fill them.
Mm.
And me as an internal recruiter who's always had slightly different take on things, I think, well, look, I can fill job. Let's work something out there, and we'll do that. So that's great. That pays the bills and keeps me alive and keeps me going while the training business is building. So it's nice to have that dual stuff. And I know quite a few other sort of agency recruiters that do a bit of training as well. Tom Bedford is one, who's obviously going to be joining your platform along with me. And I think it's nice to, I don't want to say hedge your bets. That's not quite the term, is it? But to have to have more than one opportunity to be selling what you're selling. Because when the market does shift and change, as it has done recently, you can just end up in a place where if your particular niche for whatever reason is not working, you've got something else to be working on. So for me, the dual, I don't want to call it dual desk, but the dual sort of doing of things is great.
Do you feel that um do you feel that it makes you a sharper trainer than someone that
Yeah,
stayed left, like, I don't know, the industry 10, 15 years ago?
yeah, absolutely. I think it makes the training more relevant, and it means that when I am training, I can use relevant, up to date examples. I can talk about things that have happened in recent weeks. I've been trained by trainers before that clearly haven't done the job in 10,
Mm.
15 years, and they're telling you things, and you're thinking, this is so out of date. It just isn't relevant anymore to what the real world looks like. And I think that's a really difficult, I always sort of went into training thinking, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be just a trainer for 10, 15 years and not have my hand in still, and not have my, the ability to react to what's actually going on in the market. I know you can talk to the people you're training, and you can learn from them, and you can hear about what's going on. But it's not the same as, it's never the same doing it firsthand and really feeling what it's like out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't that long ago I did my last deal because I went away from the coaching with and launched an agency, and it does definitely keep you sharper when you're actually doing it. And the one thing I would always suggest to anybody picking a coach or picking a trainer as well is if there's a particular method that someone's demonstrating, it's all well and good, like, being in the trenches and saying, like, run over that hill towards that that gunfight. But if you're not willing to drag people over the hill with you and be like, right, let me show you how it works. Like, headhunting is a great example, and pick up the phone and headhunt in front of people, like, be it two people or 200. If you're not willing to demonstrate the skills that you're actually showing, again, like, I think there's people are missing out on credibility there as well. Sort of to be able to demonstrate that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's
Certainly very interesting. But what would you say is the state of play in the rec to rec space right now? Like, are agencies hiring, and what does that tell you about the market at the moment?
yeah. It certainly feels like agencies are hiring. They're looking to grow. But what I would say is they're looking to grow with proven billers. They're looking for people that are already billing a good amount of money, that can bring clients over with them, that have the skill to go out and BD and bring on new clients and things like that. And I think, yes, on one hand, it's showing some positivity because they are investing, they are growing, they are wanting more people, but they're wanting people that are going to essentially instantly turn a profit. And I think, anyone can hire somebody that can instantly turn a profit, right? If somebody's going to join the business and instantly add revenue more than their costs, then yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you hire at that point?
Mm.
So what I'm not necessarily seeing, although as a retro, so using me for junior roles, but when I'm not seeing as much in the more junior recruitment yet, where people are sort of taking on trainees, and people that they want to develop, grow. It does seem like it's coming. It is coming, and I think generally the market is starting to look. Oh, do you know what? I'm sick of it. Like, I feel like it's starting to look better, but I feel like I've been saying that, like, and we've all been saying that for the last 2 or 3 years. Like, I distinctly remember conversations in 2023 where people were saying, yeah, look, it's going to get better Q4. Things are on the up. But there's just too much. There's too much shit going on globally that just is so out of our control. So many levels removed out of our control that is having such a big impact on all of our markets at the minute. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I want to say it's going to look better, but I like how can anyone say that with real confidence at the
yeah,
moment?
it's hard, right? I don't know. Definitely, I think tech's going to have a massive impact on the future of it has to. Um, but also like if they're looking for experienced hires, somebody needs to be hiring the grads, right? Because the talent pool
Yeah,
isn't bottomless.
yeah,
And I guess especially if you're recruiting locally, there's maybe like if you're doing some work, I don't know, locally around, let's say the Milton Keynes area, like there's a finite amount of agencies in that specific
yeah.
geography, right? Where you're going to run out of talent. So then what's your strategy? Like if you've run out of talent and you're like, well, actually no one locally fits the bill or they're not quite right, whatever, then I guess your options are either to go junior or remote.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And funnily enough, I'm seeing more agencies go away from remote now. I feel like a lot of them are returning to the office, and they want that. They want the office buzz again. And I think, do you know what? I think for early days in recruitment, I think you've got to be in the office. I'm a massive advocate for remote working. I'm in my own home right now, and I do a lot of stuff from home. But like if you're just starting out in agency recruitment, you've got to be in that office where you can hear what other people are doing, you can see what other people are doing, people can hear what you're doing as well, and give you feedback live in the moment. Hey, I noticed you said this. Maybe better if we angle it that way, and just those little bits of advice, those little things you overhear that you just can't do remotely, where every single bit of advice has to be a phone call or a Teams call where like, oh, I've got to tell you something. It's those little casual bits of conversation that you miss. So yeah, I think agencies are going back to in office in the most part, and especially those with more junior teams. I think they need to be. That's the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I also think as well that people are craving that human connection.
Yeah,
We are we are social creatures, and that's how it should be. And as someone that works remotely myself, similar to you, I've got clients where I mean I'm an online coach personally, right? But I don't like there are some clients I've got where I'm like, yeah, I'll come to your offices weekly. That's fine. I'm not an issue. It's not an issue because I enjoy I enjoy that. And it also makes you really sticky as well. Like, and that's also true if you're an employee. If you're remote, and if you're gone culturally, you don't really affect the culture. But if it's you're in an office and you're gone, people will feel that difference, right? So I definitely think that being in person makes you very sticky as an entity. But yeah, that's super interesting.
I've actually in the last 6 months or so started two different networking. I guess initiatives is the word because they're not. I wouldn't call them networking groups. Both, but one is with an independent HR consultant and recruitment consultant called Nikki, who we've worked together in various places over the years, and we meet up once a fortnight, just in the Holiday Inn Express in Northampton. We sit in the what they call the great room, just the sort of bar area, and we work for the day. And occasionally other people come and join us because we post about it on LinkedIn and the like. And that came from a place of, look, we're both just work alone all the time. We call each other all the time anyway, just to say hi and catch up and just to have that human connection. And actually, just sitting together and working sometimes is great because it gets you out of the house. It gets you a bit more focused on what you're doing. Gives you that human connection, someone to bounce some sort of thoughts and ideas off of. And then on the back of that, I was approached by a guy called Ben Brabbin, who's launched a load of these walkabouts around the country. I think there's something like 35 walkabouts now, and they're networking walking events, net walking events, I guess, where a group of people from a local area meet up and they go walk around the area, they chat, and they go sit bar for an hour, and that's kind of like the networking piece. So we launched the Milton Keynes version of that this month, and there'll be another in October as well. So between those two things, it's just like I get nothing from those financially or anything like that. It's not
Mm.
about trying to earn or do or even to do the networking. It's just to meet people and chat to people and feel some different ideas and different thoughts from different areas. So it's interesting to do.
Yeah, I'm like it's that. Well, I can't even. I can play the new card, but I've fairly recent. This is my second season playing golf, but do you play yourself at all?
I did when I was about 8, and my granddad used to drag me around a golf course, and I rebelled every inch.
I'm guessing words like drag and did like
Yeah, exactly. I've not yet gone back to it. I mean, I'm still playing a lot of football, so maybe when my knees give up, I'll
Yeah.
read to golf. Not that I'm saying your knees are gone, but who knows?
But no, golf is something that where I'm surprised there are not more kind of golf events for the recruitment industry. So actually, I think it won't be long. Perhaps next year, I'm definitely gonna put one out. We'll make sure that the Performance Zone sponsors that event and
Nice.
invite the best and worst golfers.
I mean, as long as I can have a handicap of 50 or something, maybe I've got a chance of keeping up.
So Jake, let's start to chew on, I guess, the topic really at hand, right? So you're known and very well known for um your ability to train like the writing and creation of job ads. And when we spoke last week, the pre-recording, you said that job ads still work if they're written really well, right? So um, let's try and cut through some of that and unpack that. Like, why do you think that so many recruiters believe that job ads don't work?
Because they don't for them. And the reason they don't for them is because they're putting out poor job adverts. If you're, it's like if somebody sat there doing business development every day and they're just picking up the phone and they're saying 20 jobs, and then they're going, well, business development doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've been on the phone all day. I've ran 100 people, and not a single one has given me a job.
Mm.
And it's like, well, yeah, like obviously it's not worked for you because you're not doing a good job of it. This is it. And I think it's just not been something that has been sort of a core part of training for a lot of recruiters as they sort of come into the market. It's all about, it's all like, if you look at there's two parts of recruitment, right? There's attraction and then assessment, potentially. And if you look at that attraction part, everything is always about how do we go out and find candidates? How do we look for candidates? How do we identify, who we want to approach? And there's not enough about how do we bring them to us. And I think, when you've been in, I've been in internal recruitment roles where I've had 80, 90 plus vacancies, in businesses like National Grid, where, it's technical engineering, construction type roles. And the only way you can feasibly find candidates for that many jobs is by writing good job adverts. You need that sort of active side of it. And sorry, I'm getting off topic on the actual question, and you'll have to rein me in here because I can't help myself when it comes to job ads. But yeah, like essentially, people are not writing good job ads, and then they're putting them out there, and then they're not working for them, and they're going, well, that wasn't worth the time, so I'm just going to copy paste the job spec and call it a day, and
Mm.
that will do. And then they're going off and doing the headhunt, which is fine, But I feel like you lose a portion of the market by doing that, and you also give yourself a lot more work to do
Mm.
by doing that.
What would you say is the biggest difference between, like, let's say a copy paste job ad and a high performing job ad that say that you would craft?
I mean, there's so much. I think some of the big things, first is the structure. Actually having a structure. If you go back to like GCSE days and persuasive writing and how you actually write something to persuade somebody to do something, that's essentially what it is, right? It's a persuading people to write. If we want somebody to do something, there's a really simple structure. Most of us use ADA, which is like a marketing structure. And if you use something like that, you can really just that alone will elevate your job ads because you're doing the right things. Also, there's a whole load of really cliche phrases that really like take people out. And I'm really interested in the craft of writing as well. Not just job ads, but like writing generally. I follow a lot of like authors podcasts and read a lot of books by authors on, like Stephen King's on writing and things like that. So I'm interested in that side of the craft. And I'll often talk about phrases and words that sort of take you out of the story.
Hmm.
So, for instance, if you're writing a story set in a medieval fantasy world, and people start using language that's very 2000s, if somebody in your medieval fantasy novel starts talking about how the vibes are good, it sort of takes you out, and you're not sort of invested in what you're reading. And I think there's a huge amount of that goes on in stuff written in job ads, all the little cliche phrases, even things like how you begin. We are delighted to be recruiting for. We are delighted to be recruiting for, and all that stuff. It just feels like it's the same every single time. I think it's really hard to give you like a snippet on what it is, but it's like just the general quality of writing throughout, will make a huge difference. You want to engage people. You want to write in such a way that people are looking at that and going, well, I enjoyed reading that. I'm going to read the next sentence, and then the next sentence, and then
Do
the
you
next
think
sentence.
that like I think you used a phrase there, and I think that you should read it into this, and that's what I think would maybe like I think the term job ads potentially puts people off because they have a certain association with it. Learn how to write job ads, and there's like this kind of this association. But where if it's like learn copywriting or learn persuasive writing, learn how if you learn persuasive writing can make you more placements, because actually that's it's all like I'm a big believer that this is all language, right? And it's your choice of words. But when you write them down on paper or on digital, it's still your choice of words, and it's that combination of words. Like, did you ever see Breaking Bad at all?
Oh, I love Breaking Bad. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rewatched recently.
So there's an episode where they're in the lab, and it's like midway through season three, and they're it's the episode with the fly, right?
The Fly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
The Fly. It's called. Yeah.
so at that episode, in that episode, so for those of you that don't or have never watched Breaking Bad, it's probably quite dated now, but it's set in New Mexico in the US. Is a high school teacher who diagnosed with cancer and breaks bad and becomes like a meth cook, and like this major, he basically becomes the main player, and he's come from this guy that was completely like squeaky clean to so anyway, so he's obviously at the point where in that episode he's risen to the heights of his crime lordness, whatever you'd call it, right, in terms of his abilities. And his wife is just starting to find out. So Skylar is finding out, and he turns to Jesse in that episode, and he said something, and it gave me shivers, like gave me goosebumps. He goes, there must be a combination of words that could explain this whole thing and make it right. There must be some sequence of words you could put one in front of the other that would make this whole thing like go away and right. And I heard that, and I thought what an amazing way to articulate your choice of words and their importance, right? And I heard that, and I thought that's recruitment. There's a combination of words that will win any client. There's a combination of words that will get the right candidate, and those words are different to different people. And like, what an amazing way to think about like your vocabulary and what words you use and what words you don't use. And actually, Jake, I think that's your intellectual property.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
your structure and your vocabulary. It's amazing.
I love it. Yeah. 100%. 100% agree. It does make me think of the LinkedIn post you're going to put out later that says, here are 10 things I learned from Breaking Bad about recruitment.
I'm not that much of a wanker. And also,
but you're 100% right, because like it's not just about the job marketing. It's not just about the actual advert. It's about what you put in the LinkedIn post when you post it. It's about what you put in the email or the message when you do reach out to people. It's about what you say to people on the phone. If you put some really good job marketing down in writing, and you've got that and you've digested it and you've said this is what's going to attract people to this job, then you're using it in every single interaction you're having with that job. With candidates, about that job. So it becomes, it's not, you're not just doing it for the sake of attracting candidates. You're doing it for so much more. around you, sort of persuading candidates.
Need a moment to catch your breath? Ready to go from good to unstoppable? At Bamboo Performance, our one-on-one coaching, exclusive live events, and dynamic online recruitment training platform help recruiters smash every target every time. Visit our website now and discover your highest potential. Let's get back to the show. One thing that I wrote down when we spoke last actually was you said about, so you felt there were two levels to writing, right? You like the fundamentals and advanced craft. Where would you say that most people tend to plateau, and why is that?
Well, to plateau, it depends how interested they are in it all. You know, I think you can take somebody not that interested in the idea of doing better job ads and training in job ads, and you can teach them the fundamentals. You know, anyone could pick up the fundamentals. I can give those people structure. I can give them, you know, some basic advice and some basic do's and don'ts and things like that will help them, you know, that will realistically put them in the top 70, 80% of, in the top, you know, better than 70, 80% of what's out there in terms of job ads, you know, just by hitting those fundamentals. And those are really easy because it's not things like, you don't have to be creative to be able to do that. You don't have to have any sort of vocabulary or anything just to be able to hit that fundamental. I think that's where a lot of people will plateau, because to go beyond that and to really get into the craft of writing and writing well, you have to have some interest, some knowledge, you know, something that's going to drive you that step beyond. I mean, look, I've always read a lot my whole life. You know, I've always been interested in you know, one of my many bookshelves sat behind me full of big fat fantasy books that I've read most of, you know, and I'm working my way through the rest of. So, and Stephen King, you know, one of the most prolific authors of our time, who's written something like 80 books that are almost all amazing, once wrote that if you want to be a good writer, you have to read a lot and you have to write a lot. And for me, to actually get to that point where you're writing, you know, absolute top drawer marketing, you have to practice by reading a lot. And I don't just mean reading job ads, I mean reading generally and improving your vocabulary, improving your use of language, improving, you know, the way you sort of digest language. And then you have to practice a lot. And to do that, you have to have some desire and some want and some need to do that. And I think that's, you know, that's where people will not necessarily get to that point. Because, you know, let's be real, not everybody wants to focus in and niche their career in the way that I have. You know, some people want to just go and do their thing or got other priorities to focus on.
Do you think so let's imagine that I'm an agency owner, right? And I've got, let's say, 15 people that are working for me. And, you know, I've got Jenny, who's really bright, liked English at school, and her adverts are naturally very good. And I've got little Johnny, who, you know, I have to stop putting crayons up his nose each morning. You know, would you?
There's another conversation there, surely.
Would you like? Do you think that some people are like? Can everybody be trained to write good ads, or are some people doomed to write shit no matter what?
I think everybody can be trained to write good ads. I think not everybody can be trained to write great ads, and not without desire and some sort of, you know, some sort of ability.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Like everybody's got their, you know, everybody can probably be trained to run faster, but not everybody is gonna be Usain Bolt, right? There's got to be some sort of natural genetics and ability and talent in all these
Yeah.
things.
You don't need to be the freak of nature that Usain Bolt is to write good ads. You know, like it's a much simpler thing really than doing a sub 10-second 100 meters.
Yeah, fair enough. What about, so what about then cheating a little bit, like, and the use of AI? There's lots of these tools coming out at the moment in the market, and some are hit and miss. Yeah, and I think you've had some exposure to some bits. What are your thoughts on AI's ability to bolster the shortfall in talent?
yeah, I mean, it can definitely help, and I think it's the same as the training. Like AI can make average writers okay, and it can make okay writers good, and it can make good writers. It can't really make good writers great because it's not got quite that much ability. And yeah, I've used a few of these tools, and I've created my own GPT, the job ad, because obviously I'm gonna go and play around with that. And I think all of them can be really handy for giving you a start when you're writing something. But I think to really make something good from the back of it, you need to kind of understand you need to understand your subject a little bit. Because I
Mm.
think if you're using the AI and then you don't understand what good looks like, and you don't understand the fundamentals, and you don't understand how to craft writing really, then you're looking at this result from this AI, and you don't know whether it's good, you don't know how good it is, you don't know how you can improve it. And I think, if you want to use an AI, it's still worth having the knowledge and the experience of what good looks like and how you can create things that are good. Because then it allows you to, first off, interrogate what you're receiving from the AI a little bit, and having an actual real opinion of it. But then it gives you the chance to improve it. And then actually AI can be a really useful tool to get you started. That blank page syndrome where you look in and go, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin. If you've got some, it's much easier to edit shit on the page than it is to write fresh a lot of the time. So, let AI give you some stuff on a page, and then you can work from there. And if you can train your AI to give you good structure and good fundamentals and things like that, it will give you that start. But you still need to understand why what it's giving you is good or bad, and where it's good or bad. Because otherwise, you're
Still
essentially
your
just copy
choice what you
pasting the
post,
results.
right? I guess.
Sorry, I missed that.
So it's still your choice what you post.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
it's probably the AI written chat GTP job ad is the new copy and paste of the job spec. It's just
Yeah,
labeling.
100%, 100%. And most people are just dumping it into Chat GPT without a custom GPT wrapper or without a system behind it or anything like that. And it's so obvious. I see. There's a real cadence to link to ChatGPT and the way it writes things, and I'm constantly seeing posts on LinkedIn that are so obviously written by AI because they just got this. They'll say, "Oh, and then this happened, and this happened," and the result, and like there's things like that you just like. It's not even the phrase; it's the timing of it, and you just look at it and you go, like, at least edit it a little bit, man. Like, at least make it look like it's your opinion rather than just a chat GPT opinion. Like, do you know what I mean? At least use a custom GPT and have it write in your own language. Like, it's just, I feel like there's a real laziness
Very
to the
brazen,
way
isn't
it's being used.
it? This
Yeah,
is shit, and I don't care.
yeah.
It's
Exactly. It's like I've got to put content out for content's sake, so I'm going to do it, and that I don't. I mean, look, people will do what they want to do, and that's up to them.
mm,
Ignore it or whatever. But I think the problem you get is by everyone using the same, because we're using ChatGPT. Let's be real. Like Claude exists, and some people use Claude, but 90% of people that are using AI are using the same thing that writes in the same way, that
this the
has its
thing.
own tone of voice, and it
It's
just
all
means that
trained on the
everything is the
same
same.
models, right? Then
Yeah,
essentially, there's nothing to differentiate you versus the other recruiter using the same. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, you've heard of the dead internet theory, right? That's been circling for a few years and becoming realer and realer, which
I haven't
is
actually heard of that. What is that?
so it's the theory that that the internet is being taken over more and more by AI and bots and automated processing things. So you go into a forum of some sort, and there's a post by a bot, and there's a comment by a bot, and you're replying to a bot, and it's like you're in a conversation with like robots that are speaking to robots that are speaking to robots, and yeah, it's not the case yet, really, but like the more AI automation and bots that appear, the more it becomes true. And you end up with this place where there's LinkedIn posts where somebody has posted by copy pasting AI, somebody has then commented by copy pasting an AI, or actually using LinkedIn's own AI, inbuilt AI wrapper. And it's like, well, what's happening here? Like it's just everyone's robots are interacting with each other, and it's like, well, what's the point of it? What does anybody gain out of that? really? Like, does it just mean that when somebody real does see it, they think, oh, this looks good. It's got loads of comments and loads of interest. But it's just
Yeah,
shit. It's
it's
just
very
shit on
interesting.
shit.
I mean, obviously, we've all like explored these things and dabbled in kind of okay, how much can this do? How good is it? Can it really clone my voice and stuff? But I think you can really tell. I think people's IP in the future is going to be the fact that what they're putting out isn't AI generated, right?
Yeah.
And it's 100% authentic. I've kind of gone away. Like if you look at my post history, you'll see me posting a lot like now because I've got an agenda, right? But the probably for the last 3, 4, 5 months, like I've probably posted maybe 10 times on LinkedIn, if that. And it's because I would rather, if I'm going to do it, I'd rather make it authentic and it be
Yeah.
me and put the effort into it. And I've just not been kind of in that mindset. Um, would I have been better off putting out some generic stuff? I don't know because when I do post, I want people to go, ah, Dan's back rather than Dan's back. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I did go through a period last year where I did a few AI posts that, were heavily edited, but they were still AI at their core, and they were rubbish. I did a few, and I was like, "This is what am I doing? What's the point of this?" I was just in a place where I thought I need to put some content out, and then I'm like, well, I'd rather put nothing out and just, you get these gurus on social media and personal brand, like you'll post 2, twice a week or 5 times a week or a million times a week or whatever, and you get sort of sucked into, oh, I've got to post X amount of time. So now it's just, I post a lot more sporadically, but what does go out is a lot more real and authentic now.
yeah, I think that's definitely the way forward, personally, Jake. Like for sure. And I wonder if I don't know, maybe there's in the future there's some sort of legislation to say if something's been generated by AI or not, or there's some sort of metadata to say AI has been used in some way to create this, so that to give people a view of what's actually real and what's not real. Um,
I
in the same
think,
way that like on like these like hair or makeup or slimming commercials where it's like Photoshop has been used in the creation of this.
yeah, no, I really like that as a thing, even if the message is far too small in most cases. I think the difficulty still with AI though is detecting it and detecting it accurately, because the AI detectors are not accurate and not consistent and things like that. And it's like, well, yes, if somebody has clicked on a LinkedIn post and then pressed the create with AI button, yes, obviously LinkedIn then knows that that's an AI generated post. But if you create it in ChatGPT and then run it through Claude for some adjustments and then make a couple of little adjustments yourself, it's like, well, is it still an AI post at that point? And will AI, excuse me, will a generator, will a detector, tell? How much do you have to change it before it's then
We have
your authentic post rather than an AI post? It's
These are
like, well,
questions we have to be asking because
yeah,
this is coming, right? And it's here. And like to be honest, it's probably a separate kind of conversation, really, because I want to make sure we're sort of sticking on theme here. But like I've recently started doing a bit of research. There was actually a guy on, what's his name, Roman Yamapolsky, I think his name is, on Diary of a CEO. The most recent. I'm not really a big Stephen Bartlett fan, right? And some of his guests are good, but I'm not like an avid listener. And I listened to that podcast and it scared the shit out of me. It absolutely. At the end of it, I was like, what's the point? Like, I'm just gonna go down the golf course and play golf because we're all doomed. And they call it the point of singularity, where we're very close to. So you've obviously got generative AI, which is the creation of stuff, right? Then agentic AI, which is the era that we're in. So these bots out going out able to go out there and do specific tasks. But I don't know how sort of into this you are. I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole, as you can probably tell. And the next thing that's coming is generative AI. Artificial general intelligence, right? And they
yeah,
reckon at that point, when that happens, we're basically fucked. And that
yeah,
is, and they talk about this thing called the point of singularity, which I thought was a really interesting concept, where these things get so smart, they know they're smarter than us. And somebody like somebody said this to me, explain this. Like if you look at the intelligence of an ant, right, and put that like on a step ladder and put the ant on step one, right? And in terms of general like intelligence at the moment, like humans are like on step three, right? And that compared to an ant relatively. And when AGI comes along, instantly it's going to be on step 10, like instantly. And singularity at that point will be the point at which tech evolves so quickly, like we won't be able to make sense of it. So imagine getting a new, like you go to the Apple store to buy a new iPhone, and by the time you've walked out the store, there's already a new phone, like, and things just won't make sense, and it will look to us like a vertical line, and it like just I don't know. I hope this guy's wrong. That's all I can say because
Sounds like he's been watching the Terminator and just
you know what?
panicking.
I downloaded the Terminator on Friday night and I watched it just to like okay like far off are we? And
This is why whenever you do use Chat GPT, remember your please and thank yous. You know,
yeah,
remember
everyone
your
keeps telling
manners.
me that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't know. It is scary, but I think it's you know it's always a little bit overblown, isn't it? When something big and new comes along, and
Mm.
the world's going to end and everything's going to change and things
I
like
want to
that.
be
I
on the
think
winning side though, regardless. I'm doing my best Matthew McConaughey impression from Interstellar at the moment with the jacket and like
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, like but anyway, so okay, so job ads headhunting, right? I'm headhunt first in my philosophy. That is kind of my narrative, my experience, and I have filled placements on the back of job ads and so forth. But you know, I would certainly say that um, my narrative is typically switchboard gatekeepers, direct dials, and going after people that and being persuasive, not in my writing, but in my talking, right? And I get that person on the phone, and I already know what they're gonna say to me. Like they're gonna say, "Dan, I'm not looking," and I know you're not looking. I've called you at your desk. You know, you haven't called me. I've called you, right? The best people are never looking. And they're gonna say something along the lines of, "Look, but I'm really not looking," right? And my whole narrative is like, well, but you're gonna leave at some point. You are gonna leave. Like you're the chance of you retiring at that company when you've got, let's call it what, 30 years of work ahead of you are slim to none, right? So you're probably going to leave, even if it's in 10 years, you're going to leave, right? So the question is what you leave for in 10 years' time or in 2 years' time or in 18 months, is that better than what I give you today? That's the question. And I'm also not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to be open-minded, right? I'm asking you to be to explore. And that's my kind of whole thing. So I agree that there is definitely a place for job ads and um but a lot of the I think a lot of the backlash that people tend to give on it is that it gives what they deem as like as kind of more active candidates, right? How could you convince a recruiter that has a similar mindset that they're an idiot for ignoring ads altogether?
I don't think anyone's an idiot. I think if it's working for them, it's working. Right? But like you just wrote a job advert then, like you didn't even realize, like you essentially started your job advert with, "Are you going to retire at your current company?" What a great opening line! Like I love that. You know, like straight away dipping into somebody's fear of, well, I'm going to leave eventually.
Mm,
You know, like, and I think this is where like some of the misconception comes from. Like you can you've done it. You've done the creative bit. You've done the hook. You know, there's two hooks you gave. Are you going to retire at your current company, or you're going to leave eventually? Right. Either one of those could be opening lines for a job advert that are quite interesting and
mm.
will break the cycle and make people read on and see what you've got to say a bit. And then what you're going to say after that, that's the rest of your job advert. Like you're doing the persuasive bit. You're just not writing it down. And
Yeah.
actually, if you write it down, you're giving yourself that stuff that you're going to talk about. You're giving yourself that stuff you're going to, send in a message. Yeah, I get the argument of passive versus active, but actually, it's wrong. Straight up, like there's been plenty of studies that have shown that passive candidates are looking at adverts, not with intent.
Mm,
They're not looking and going, "I want to apply." but they're looking, and if they, because stuff comes across in front of them, stuff on LinkedIn comes in front of them. You don't have to be looking for a job to go, oh, that's interesting. Let's see what it says. And if it is interesting, if it's written well, if it's engaging, they might just read to the end and go, actually, you know what, I might just ping this guy a message, because we're not asking for a CV, we're not asking for loads of hardcore, application processes to be filled. If we're just saying, you can just message me, like you will fill jobs that way. You will find people that way. I, like in the last week, I've made two job offers in Recruitment, in the Recruitment world, and both of them have come from applicants. I've got interviews happening right now that have come from candidates that have applied. And I'm not saying I haven't done some headhunting as well. I haven't found some people that way, but there are plenty of good candidates that you would think wouldn't be looking for work that have applied to job ads because they're good and are now going through processes and finding that they're getting offers or getting success or things like that. I think it's really sorry. Go on.
I was gonna say it's interesting because I guess most people are open realistically for the right thing if the right thing came along, but it's I've written emails before where they've said I never respond to these, but I responded to yours. I guess it's kind of the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's just a different format, isn't it? It's just a different channel for the same words essentially. And obviously the email's slightly different in that it's a little bit more targeted. It's actually at a person rather than into the void and hoping somebody sort of responds.
So
because sometimes it can feel like you are just screaming into the void with a job ad and you're trying to sort of hit everybody or hit the entire target market. But realistically, you only need one person, right? You only need to attract one person. So you write to that one person and hope they see it. And I think for me, the ads have got to go alongside your headhunting approach. It's got to be something. It doesn't have to take a long time. You can have a decent ad out in an hour, and then that's it. It's done. And it's your evergreen thing that's just going to sit there and it will pick up candidates throughout your search. It's a place for you to direct your candidates. Once you've spoken to them, you've got something good to show them, interesting to show them that they can, then sort of further digest the information you've given them. It should be something that goes alongside your headhunting approach. Although there have been cases where, as I say, I've been in roles in internal roles where you're looking after 60, 70, 80, sometimes more than 90 jobs. Like I can't be sitting there doing searches for that many jobs. Yeah. So I'm putting out an advert and then, looking at the candidates and having to hire people that way. And in that case, you have to get, the advert right. And if it works in Rectorec, which it does, I've shown that. If it works in engineering and technical construction, where it's also worked for me, it can work anywhere. I think that's often the argument as well. Is people saying, well, these highly technical people, they're not looking. There's one particularly great example when I was at Grid where we had a QS, a commercial manager who was hiring for quantity surveyors. Real hard sort of people. He struggled for 4 or 5 months and not hired anybody. But within a month of having a decent advert out, he hired 5 people. He's in the process of writing testimonial, so that'll exist, and we'll have some real evidence of that rather than just me saying that to you now. But he hired 5 people in say it's only about 5 or 6 weeks again, just on the back of being able to attract people and actually having people finally go, do you know what, that looks like something interesting, rather than just the hundreds of QS adverts, hundreds of QS approaches that they've had already. So it does work. It does work in these technical areas.
I'm just sitting there thinking about what you're saying, and what I would say is the real bottleneck on all these things, and we obviously touched on this earlier, is that person's natural ability, natural talent, and because what you're getting essentially, and like you say, it can be learned, but you can shine through. Like, I guess if you read a job ad, or a really well written job ad, you probably think, oh, this person's quite bright, or at least bright in the right areas. And I think that's true when you're on the phone as well and you're having a conversation. What they're really objecting to a lot of the time is kind of that they're not engaged, right? So for me, especially as a rec to rec, like the quality of the person that you hire it's like a preset potential in terms of their ability to do this sort of thing well. And I wonder if there's potentially like a position within a business, like where you've got someone that's quite, they're trigger happy, they're headhunt first, the rest of it. Like, but actually, I think you've made some really compelling arguments, Jake. And um, for me, I reckon that every agency could do with this ability in their agency.
Oh yeah, I
I
agree.
wonder if there's like a case to say, well, actually, the volume of roles is there to have someone that's like a specialist in this thing. Maybe they're quite introverted, maybe they're like writing, they're like reading, they're like, they're like sort of, but they understand what this looks like really well. And to have someone like that, if I was a recruiter, I said, well, actually, you know, um, Frank's going to do my job ads, but Frank is just unbelievable, right? And I give him a cut. Um, Maybe there's a place like in the agency for someone that specializes in this sort of stuff.
I think in a certain size agency, once they hit a point, there absolutely could be and should be. And there's been years where I'd certainly have looked at those jobs and gone, yeah, get me in. I'll absolutely, I'd absolutely have done it. Um, I also think though that recruiters have the ability to do this, and every recruiter does, right? You showed it when you talked about, your headhunting approach and what you're going to say to them on the desk. Like we all think about our words to some degree.
Mm.
Like we're all trying, but whether you're headhunting or writing adverts or doing both, you're still using words to persuade people. And if you can find the right words to persuade somebody when you're speaking to them, then why can't you just write it down? Or if you don't like the idea of writing it down, just transcribe yourself on a phone call. Record yourself on that first phone call and go, oh, this is good shit. Let's put this into writing. Maybe edit it and neaten out the ums and the likes and whatever else you sort of say a lot of, and then that's it. You've done it. You've gotten yourself a good ad. And I think, yeah, like if you can learn the structures and the fundamentals to go with that, and have a general idea of what it should look like, you know, recruiters can find the words because it's what we do, right? It's what we all do for a living. If you can't find the words to persuade somebody to be interested in a job, then you're probably in the wrong profession. In most cases.
Yeah, that's a very fair comment, I think, in my book. So Jake, you've said that that you could probably talk about job ads for like 4 hours straight, right? So we want to make sure that we give the people wanting more, and I think that this podcast alone is probably one of the most insightful that we've had so far on the series. And I'm sure that people can see your quality shining through with your
I
presentation.
hope so.
Um, so so look, I guess a couple of things I want to sort of talk about. So Orca, as I'm really like you've made me a very proud man with your product placement there. That T-shirt just on the shelf behind you. So you're one of the founding contributors to the Orca platform, and we're very lucky to have you. And Jake gives more insights, more details on the platform around this topic. We can obviously see here his expertise here. If they want something more than that, where's the best place to find you, Jake?
Sure. Probably the best place is LinkedIn. There is a website on the way. It will exist soon. But for now, just on LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. It becomes the social media scroll now. So, I'll always respond to stuff pretty quickly there and see stuff pretty quickly there. I even now sat chatting to you. Like, there's a temptation just to open up LinkedIn and have a look, which I haven't, by the way. So that's the place.
Playing
That's the place where
solitaire.
yeah, exactly. That's the place to find me always is LinkedIn because unfortunately I found myself living there.
Yeah, fair enough. And what's the one golden rule that you would want every recruiter to take away when it comes to the job ad? Like, what's the thing that you would leave people with today that would make them instantly better? And they can.
Sure, I think focus on what the candidate wants, not what you want.
That's a great
That's
tip.
it.
That's a great tip in general. 100%. I completely rate that. Well, look, ladies and gents, yeah, you've been Jayke Annan. I've been Dan Alexander. This is the Performance Zone, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks, guys.
Okay, guys, that is a wrap for this episode. Now it's time to take what you've learned and keep pushing forwards. Remember, Bamboo Performance is here to support you every step of the way, whether that's through our one-to-one coaching, exclusive live events, or our online training platform. If you're ready, visit our website, and until next time, stay unstoppable. This episode is proudly sponsored by Orca, the online recruitment coaching academy. Get access to live coaching, online courses, and playbooks from the industry's top coaches. Your entire organization can get access for less than the price of one email per day. Sign up today at trainwithorca.com.